Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning. Y'all know what it is. It's me, your boy Trey. We got Cornelius, the Simso, stimulate your mind. I'm very sure Ron and Bishop will be on shortly as any opportunity they get to laugh and point their finger at, I'm gonna laugh at you, is what they do. No one missed that opportunity, vice versa. Cornelius, before we get started, what's good with you, brother? How you doing this morning?
Well, it's all good. Happy Memorial Day to all the vets out there and the families of vets that lost their lives fighting for this country. Uh, but other than that, I'm doing great, man. It's a good day.
Yes, yes, indeed, indeed. It's a day of remembrance. So to everyone that has lost somebody, we sit in a day of remembrance with you on this Memorial Day for 2022. So as we allow everyone to come home and fall in with us this morning, I'll give it a few seconds so that way I could go ahead and get. You know what, Cornelius? I don't mind apologies, right? I don't mind apologies. I think it was a time in my life, however, that it would be dirt in my mouth to sit up to have to say sorry or have to go back on something in which I said, especially if I thought I was right. And in in a few moments, this is no different, or this won't be any different. As I believe I was right in picking the Boston's. I mean, correction. I was right in picking the Miami Heat, as we're going to get into, of course, this morning. I do feel like I had the right choice, um, but in any case, I did state, as I put posted yesterday in my Facebook page, that the Heat defeat the Celtics tonight. Hashtag I said what I said, and that it seemed to strike a little nerve in some people. Some people that actually rep Boston. Other people do just think who thought my logic and reasoning was pretty absurd. In which, saying no different from yourself and Bishop, who have always say like you on something, and basically been told that I need to be pissed, or go through a urinalysis test. In which I still relented to stay with my choice of the Miami Heat in games, correction, all the way back to when I was like 6-4. I mean 4-2, Miami, which didn't happen. It kind of turned the tide, and then we had a situation where we was looking at potentially a 4-2 Boston Celtics. I still held my ground and said, "Nah, we good." And then, just as yourself and Bishop stated, y'all did say that it would go seven and be a Boston and win. Of course, me in grand fashion, I continue on with my uh, continue support of the Miami Heat, mainly because do not want Boston to get another championship, and the best way to avoid that is to eliminate them before they get to the championship. However, that did not happen. So I sit here this morning, Cornelius, and because you're one of the first people on, I apologize for uh, my lack of judgment at that particular time. I apologize to Kira, who is a representative from and around in or around the Massachusetts area. I too apologize to you, Kira, for speaking such blasphemy in that sense. Annie Tallulah, Crystal, I apologize for even sending messages to y'all and talking about Boston's going home tonight when y'all just sat here at the beginning of the series when they played Brooklyn, and y'all said, saying it's Boston on yours, and discussing Shota Effendi for that, and yet I still said, even Crystal came back and said, I bet Miami is not even his team, and you're right, Crystal, they are not my team, but I just wanted them to finish off Boston, and I apologize for even coming at y'all like that. Like I said, Bishop, Ron, Leo, even Leo, and we know he's team Pelican, but even Leo discussed and said, "Hey Trey, saying you okay?" And with the side eyes face, my cousin Mark, he got on and even put up the emoji where it looks like, saying, like I didn't know like I don't do this and know what I'm talking about. So I apologize and, saying, extend that olive branch to y'all all as I recognize and realize the error in my ways and how I was slightly uh, misled, hoodwinked, led astray yesterday. And I now go forth and cheer on the Golden State Warriors as they go forth. So yes, I've said it. I've done it. My apology for this Memorial Day weekend.
All I can say about um, man, I thought the Boston Celtics was going to wrap it up at 6.
Hmm.
Me and Bishop talked about that. Um, when you weren't on the show, we talked about, yeah, they're going to wrap it up, but they didn't get to wrap it up. I don't know, man. What can you say? I'm Jimmy Butler. All I man, that guy. I mean, Game 6. I think he left it all out there. Game 7. Don't hold anything against you because the toughest thing is to have to make those picks. Who you riding with? But I just think Boston. I thought Boston. For me, it was them beating Milwaukee that
Hmm.
let me know that they were going to win. I figured whoever won that series really won the Eastern Conference. Now,
Hmm.
take nothing away from Miami. Miami, man, even last night, that furious comeback. Hey, Miami did what they had to do. They just fell a little bit short. But whenever you're ready to start talking about that game, I'm ready, because, yeah.
And we'll start off with a little bit. Of course, we go back. Let's go back a little bit to the game in which he said it was on. Well, of course, we're off the air because it was over the weekend and we didn't get a chance. So just to recap, the game 6 in which happened on Friday. Of course, Miami was looking at elimination. You know, what I'm saying, a closeout game for Boston, in which didn't happen. My Boston ended up winning. Correction, Miami ended up winning 111-103. In which you just said Jimmy left it all on the court, dropping 47 points. Tatum and Brown combined for 50 points apiece. White contributed with 20 points. And then, of course, what seemed to be a Everest um, Hero remained out and didn't get a chance to play. But Jimmy basically put them on his back and did exactly what we thought he would do, and kept it alive, held them off, and forced the game 7 back at home. Now, when you step forth and come forth to last night's game 7, of course, what you had is, like you said, Boston against Miami in Miami. For me, it was a quick punch in the mouth. Boston came out and was just dominating off the rip. And I started to sit up and think to myself, like, oh my goodness, like, what I'm saying, I'm definitely gonna eat these words without a reasonable doubt. Of course, Boston came back. What's good, Stoves? Golden State Dynasty, it's likely. We talked about that before. And then but basically what it came out is Boston took off. They was off the races out early. But just like anything else, I didn't drink the Kool Aid, as we say on here a lot, because I realized, like, you know what, a lot of times what we have seen is a diminish of the blowout games, and then we've seen a situation to where it becomes competitive, especially in this Hawaii, Miami, Boston game. And so I started thinking, like, you know what, it's going to be easy. And then slowly but surely, they walked them down. And it was a 2 point game at the half. You know what I'm saying? When they was getting beat 24-9 at some point in the first quarter. What did happen, of course, 24 points scored by uh, Jimmy Butler in the first half, in which I was feeling pretty good at that point. I was like, you know what, saying, we're gonna be all right. When you look at the second half, of course, in state was Jason Tatum finished with 26 point, 10 games, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. Grant Williams 11.6 6 rebounds. Marcus Smart 24 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. Jaylen Brown 24.6 rebounds, 6 assists. Robert Williams 2 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. Al Horford 5 points, 14 rebounds, 3 assists. Derek White 8 points, one assist, 3 rebounds. The Heat's Jimmy Butler 35 points, 9 rebounds, 1 assist. PJ Tucker, no points, 4 rebounds, 25 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists from Bam. Kyle Raleigh contributed with 15 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. Max Strus, 8 rebounds, 8 points, 3 assists. Victor Oladipo doing what he can as best he could, 9 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Gabe Vincent, 4 points, and Tyler Hero really only played 7.7 minutes in the game. Was only able to contribute with 1 assist, as basically that didn't help, as it maybe it might have been a quick spark, but him not being there obviously was made didn't kind of made a difference in my opinion. But as we look at this going in, of course, Jason Tatum won the Larry Bird trophy as the conference series MVP. Um, they did get a chance to go on an 11-2 run to end the fourth quarter, as the fourth quarter was waning down in a situation where they had walked back and they was basically down by 2. Jimmy Butler with the ball in his hand had an opportunity to even drive to score, to tie it up, or go for the kill shot. In this instance, he went for the kill shot. So, CC, one of the first questions I ask you after all that: did Jimmy make the wrong decision?
No.
Okay.
I thought so when it initially happened, but he was tired, man. Playing 48 minutes, I don't think he could have gave you anything in 5 minutes that he didn't give you in 48. He was, he all or nothing type. Nothing was wrong with the shot. He probably could have got to a more comfortable spot. Seeing as the 3-point shot is not really his game, but man, hey, you got to go for the win if you him, because he was tired.
Okay, and so when I looked at it, as of course when they showed it from a perspective of I looked at it as, I'm sure he could have go ahead and went down court, even though Al Horford's a savvy player, and he probably would have thought about it. I thought maybe he could have drew the foul and maybe got the 3-point play that would have potentially put them up, or Al even would have led him to the basket, or would have drew the foul, one of the two. But the 3-pointer, I understand, was the kill shot. It would have burned the house down. It would have been in grand fashion, of course, with 1 point being left. So I too, like you, thought initially that it might have been the wrong shot, but then of course I thought, okay, maybe it wasn't. It hit front iron. It wasn't that far off. But I think I would have preferred them to have went continue down court. Euro shake and bake, side step, or and see if he could have got Horford to draw the foul and go from there. So, but that didn't happen. Of course, they go down. Um, the 1 point. I mean, they score 2 and Smart put it out of reach for them. And then we end with a 100-96 point game. One thing that we talked about is the officiating. What did you think of the officiating down to? Yes, Leo, keep attacking. That's what I think he should have just attacked them and made Horford decide if he wanted them to go up by 2. I mean, if he wanted them to tie it, or if he wanted to try to stop them from getting the tie and drawing a foul, but they could have put it away. But the officiating, Cornelius, what do you think about the officiating?
And they got to get better if they want the finals to be all that it could be cracked up to be. Officiating crews got to get better, and I never seen, like last night. I never seen anything like that where you come back 3 minutes later and take points off the board. I mean, normally they do that immediately if they're going to do that. I kind of in game 6 before, it seemed like they blew a lot of calls. Last night, you could say it was a couple of questionable calls, but overall, the officiating in this series has been, man, it hasn't been that great. We talked about it before last week. That officiating, I know they rotate crews, but the NBA has to do better with policing the officials, because they can put you in a game or take you completely out of a game. And It hurts that the players don't get to decide the game. They did a little bit better down the stretch last night, letting the players decide the game. But in previous games, we saw it wasn't so much like they control the tempo, changed the whole game. For me, that's no good. Like it's almost like you want to talk rigged. It's probably the officials or something. Like, are they betting on the game still? Question.
Donahue type. And it's interesting. Like I had when I was watching it, of course. Uh, no accountability for the referees.
Yeah.
So in which I think what happened, definitely what happened, in which starts to bring up what y'all talk about. As much I have been trying to be a shield for the sports in general, but in this particular we're talking about the NBA, be a shield for that, in which you talk about these theories and stuff like that. But I was watching the game, I was laying down, and I was and it came up, and I'm thinking to myself, like, did he just step out of bounds? Like, what are we talking about? Because it was the league that issued the challenge and looked at it. And the league sent it back down to the officiating crew to sit up for them to talk about it so they could talk about their changing it because they said he stepped on the line. I mean, I ain't gonna say who cares, but like you said, at that point it's a missed call. The official didn't get the call. If we're gonna do that, why don't we go back to looking at these some of these situations where fouls get called, and then it's come to find out, oh, that legitimately wasn't a foul. No, of course we can't do that because the foul is basically is subjected to the individual that's looking at it. But in these instances where it's clearly a wrong foul or things was given, why are we looking at this as a whole? Like to go, like you said, it should have been something that should have been annotated. Like, okay, we got to bring this up closer attention to what's going on. But at that point, Struess or it was Vincent, I think it was Struess, knocks down the three, and like you say, time elapsed, a good amount of time. And good morning, Dale. Good morning. Good morning. Uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, it goes back to the heaps hack. But if we would have went and looked at those 3 points, now you have a whole different complexity of a ball game. Hence, if we're in that moment, if we're at the same point where now Miami is up by three, by one, Jimmy Butler's correction, Miami's is down by one, and Jimmy Butler is presumably coming down court with the ball in his hand, or even they're tied at that point. Like it changes the whole complexity of the game in that sense. And now you look at it like they took it away. Of course, that's a foreshadowing at this point, but the whole complexity of the game has changed at this point. And I'm wondering if I can't fathom the thought of how they were even allowed to where that it is. Good morning, Freddie, sir. Good morning. Good morning. How they even go back and change that? Like, especially like you said, 3 to 4 minutes later, we in the game, and it's like the whole score has been changed. But you know what? I digress because I've done that even when I do officiating and stuff scorekeeping for um, in the intramural realms and stuff like that, where I go back, I look in the book, and I make adjustments to the score. But of course, it's not the same as going back and change the score because a call was missed and the player stepped out of bounds, and they said it was not a good. It was the three wasn't converted. Um, so of course, Leslie says the NBA refs are paid off.
Sometimes it looks that way. I mean, for real. Sometimes, okay, okay. Last night we learned that the NBA office can make a ruling on the court, and I'm wondering if you go back to the game 6, the controversial Jimmy Butler, where Boston was picking up momentum, and Jimmy Butler, the ball was clearly out of bounds on Jimmy Butler. They didn't review that and change that call because it was clearly out of bounds. It was late in the game. And they let that one ride, so I don't see the significance of them going back and changing this one in a game 7. It's like if you made a bad call, you live with it and keep moving is the thing. But I think it kind of if you saw Spoelstra after they changed the score, I mean the look that he had, it's kind of it kind of symbolizes it all of what officiating needs to be, as far as like he's looking like, man, did this really just happen? Are y'all really going back and 4 minutes later taking 3 points off the board? Hey, I was playing for this and now I got to play for this. Yeah. I mean, it changes your coaching a little bit there, but I just want to put this out there. I was going for Boston because I felt like they beat Milwaukee, who was the team I thought would come out of the East. But a point in that game, the thing that off the officiating, you have to look at Miami. We talked Boston. I mean Dallas needing help. It was a point in that game where they showed the stats for the shooting, and Bam and Butler had combined. I think they were 17 for like 28 or something, and the rest of the team at that point, it was like late in the third quarter or mid third quarter or something. They were 3 for 20 combined. That's go down the list. That's Lowry, Struz, Tucker.
Yeah.
I mean, name the whole. They were 3 for 20. I thought it was going to be basically. You take Butler and Bam off of that, man. It was 2
That's a
against 5.
blowout. Yeah,
It
yeah.
was 2 against 5. It was like, are they going to 2-man? And every time Miami Heat got back in it, I was going for Boston. I got nervous, and I was like, are they going to 2-man this game? Are 2 people actually going to beat a whole squad? Because that's what it looked like to me. They did hit some. Struz did hit a shot here there late. Lowry got to the free throw line. But other than that, man, the Miami Heat, the shooting by the rest of, Shaq would say the others, it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was horrible. PJ Tucker, you got to give us some points.
Yeah, that part. That's what you're saying. Like, we understand what the situation was with Hero. He honestly came back with an effort, because he definitely wasn't obviously ready to go, but he attempted it. So we can understand, okay, in 7 minutes why he ain't giving anything. But how Tucker, you of
Right.
all people, like at least 2 or 3. If you converted 2 field goals, it's tied, or you're winning at this point. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but not to give anything,
Right.
it's a damn, which you understand. You know what I'm saying? Certain things happen. I know it got to the point to where even at the end of it, Miami just wasn't converting. They missed some good shots, some blew some layups, and it just wasn't falling in their favor initially. Like, at the end of the day, you can clearly state and see that it was a game where it was a 1-2 punch with Bam and Butler. Maybe a small contribution from Oladipo. Um, and so, but I think Miami is going to be pretty good going forth, even if they continue with this trajectory. But of course, teams get better, and maybe what they gave this year is not going to be good enough next year. But of course, we will see, of course. So now we have it. The stage is set. Golden State and Boston. West, you know what I'm saying? It's a Cali team, but it's not the Cali team in which we are accustomed to seeing. Golden State and Boston. What do you think about this series, Cornelius?
Boston almost had a letdown last night.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just keep it real. I don't think they're going to beat. I'm going for Golden State.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Boston's going to do it just because of how their so-called stars played last night when it came crunch time.
Ooh.
Marcus Smart was taking all the shots. 0 for 5 down the stretch. Marcus Smart is the guy with the ball. Jason Tatum, where you at to close the game out? Like, where, I get it. Jaylen Brown, you don't want him with the ball. He can't shoot free throws. But Jason Tatum, where are you? Close the game. That doesn't happen if he closes the game. You saw when he did have the ball, he always made the right pass, or he's just more naturally gifted. He was the best player on the court. I mean, no disrespect to Jimmy Butler, but if you notice, Jimmy Butler had to work for every shot twice as hard. Look how effortlessly Jason Tatum gets his shot off, how he gets to his spots. Against the Golden State Warriors, man, he's gonna have to make up his mind whether he's a superstar or not, because they're gonna need superstar power to beat them. You can't rely on Marcus Smart at the end of the games to shoot. He bailed him out with the 2 free throws, and that was good on his part. But I feel like Jason Tatum has to be that guy to step up and take control of the games coming down the stretch, and he didn't do that. He didn't do that in Game 6, and he didn't do that last night. So when is he going to do it? When is he going to realize he's the best?
It's So when you look at it, I think that we definitely did have a situation where there was a lack in assertiveness, of course, one thing is on both sides of the team, which goes back to why Miami, because Miami was assertive sometimes when there was no they took shots that should have been taken, like one-on-one shots, forcing shots. And so same thing with Jalen Brown or Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart, however, did have 20. He did have 24 points, which was heavy. Like that's something
Yeah.
which like you can like we talked about earlier in the week or even last week. You can't let you definitely understand and know that Brown and Tatum are going to go off. You can't allow everyone else to go off. You can't allow Smart to saying get served on. You can't allow Horford to go. You can't allow the by saying by the grace Butler was able to overcome the fact of Derek White dropped 20 last, last on game 6. And so you
Right.
had the same situation that they had in game 6, they allowed in game 7. They allowed Jalen and and Tatum to get his, but yet you allow someone else to drop 20 points. Like that's that's the damning situation. You allowed White to drop 20 in the first game. You barely escaped that game. But then comes game 7, you allow Marcus Smart to drop 24, and you can't zip account for that when you're missing one of your scores in the fact of the matter, and everyone else hasn't stood up. But again, it goes out to where it's like it's saying it's helpful. But again, Boston, I don't think is going to. They have a different tactician in Steve Kerr. Not to say that they can't be beat, but it's definitely going to be uh, a different story when they travel when Golden State comes to town, or when they got to travel to Golden State. The only thing that is in their favor is the fact that they only got to go to Golden State 3 times, in which Golden State is the only team that's undefeated at home at this point. They only got to go there 3 times. So if saying if they continue in that same vein, at least they can figure that that's a 3-0 in that sense. All Golden State has to do is win 2 in Boston, in order to be crowned, get their what fourth or fifth
Yeah.
championship, fourth championship in 8 years. Uh, and which we'll see. Of course, like you said, I ride with Golden State, but for a plethora of reasons. But we'll see. Like you said, it's definitely not going to be the same type of ball game in which they'll have. They have depth. They have players that can go off. Um, and it's going to be an interesting series. I
And
see.
I want to say this.
Yes.
Everybody keeps saying, I know that by the numbers and everything, the Celtics had the best defense of the year. And everybody keeps saying this defense. Well, in the playoffs, what I've seen with the Celtics is, yes, they do play good defense. They're scrappy. But they haven't played a 7-game series or a series at all against um, anybody as dynamic as the Golden State Warriors as far as the ball movement and stuff like that. I want to see how good that perimeter defense is when that ball is moving. You're playing against a lot of teams that go one-on-one. I mean, it's easy, it's easy to stay in front of you guys if guys are just going to stand around in the corners and things like that. It's like you was basically watching Jimmy Butler and Bam go one-on-one a lot last night.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't really watching ball movement, easy cuts to the basket and things like that are really stretching that 3-point shot where, Steph can come up and he can pull it from anywhere, stretching the defense out further, opening up lanes and things like that. Clay can stretch it out also. You haven't seen Boston deal with a team that dynamic yet. So that's why I think Golden State is the better team because of the ball movement. I think that's going to trump good defense. As long as I can keep the ball moving and get some easy buckets here and there, and you miss shots on the other end, we'll be good.
Like you say, key perimeter defense is going to be key. In which that's what Boston had. It was some spurts last night. It was Boston's defense. Like you got, like you give it up to Boston for last night. They had a stranglehold on the lead. It was like they was on some anaconda type stuff. Like they were smothering. They were smothering out. They wasn't put. They didn't turn off the water completely, but they surely was out there with that wrench, ratcheting and getting it like, hey, it's kind of hard, but we almost got it. They had a stranglehold on them. They would not let them breathe, and they wouldn't let them come up. They would for the vast majority of the game when they had the lead, when they got to the 2 points, they pushed it back out to 11. and they consistently held a 7 to 9 point lead over them to the last minutes until, while, like you just said earlier, Jimmy was tired. It was, and they had basically smothered them. That's not. I don't foresee that being the same thing against Golden State. When they lose, they lose, but when they come back with a problem. As a problem, like you say, you got Wiggins. They got people on the bench they're not even utilizing, and Kaminga. Uh, I don't know if Otto Porter will be back. They got Moody, of course, and then they got their usual suspects in. They got Lee, who doesn't get it, who hasn't been getting served on since Poole, and then of course they got Poole, Draymond, Wiggins, who is going to probably be the key or the one which is really going to be the difference as a perimeter defender. Also, someone can get points. Of course, Steph, Clay, Draymond is, saying, two different factors. In the factor where he can get in someone's head, or he can basically play defense. You still has people on the bench, and if Iguodala gets a chance to play, I don't know, Wiseman is going to be able to be activated and play. So they have plenty of individuals where they can show up and possibly show out. So it's definitely going to be a thing is going to be a challenge, I believe, for Boston for the most part. And basically, you see, I know Leo said 5, Golden State in 5. Woo, that's
It very well may be. I think.
wow. Really, I think so. That's
I think. I think Boston. I think Boston can push it like to like 6 or 7, but I think. I just think Golden State. I think Golden State can beat them, gentleman's sweep or a sweep or something. But I don't think Boston can sweep them. Sweep Golden State. It's just like Wiggins is going to be a huge factor, but I said it Friday and I'll say it again. The wild card to me is going to be what can Robert Williams give you for the Celtics? What can he give you, and how he can he defend in that pick and roll? Or is he going to be healthy enough to play, first of all? And can he defend in that pick and roll? They run that little set where it's like Draymond sets that pick, and then either Steph or Clay comes off that little curl. Are they going to step out and try to guard those threes?
Portland Celtics. The leadership is from Portland. So to Leo, I think had it fell in Miami's grace yesterday, and Miami been able to take care of business. A Miami Golden State series. I think it would be no different. I think at the end state it was going to be Golden State. I mean, definitely Miami would have been Golden State for me. Regardless had been Miami or Boston. Like I said again, I just wanted Boston to be gone. So to alleviate them with the possibility of getting number 18. But I think it would have been the same thing, and I think it would have been if you remember that look of Jimmy Butler laying out and leaning on that partition after playing the Lakers during the bubble when the Lakers won the championship. That would have been the same thing. Like that would have been the same look that we were seeing at some point, to where Jimmy would have just been gassed. It would have had no more in him, because it would have been a lot of him having to do that and having to chase Steph or Clay or Wiggins and operate all that type of stuff. It takes a lot out of an individual. At some point, that adrenaline comes down, and when the reality starts to set in, that it's saying this is almost over. It's like now you like start to let that air out the balloon. It's like, yeah, it's just we just gonna go ahead and pack it in. So I honestly believe had been Golden State and Miami, we'll be talking about the same thing. Maybe even like you said, a 5-1, or 4-0 at that point. It going to Miami, Golden State to Miami. So CC
Sweep. Sweep. Miami, like I said, at a certain point in that game, the others, as Shaquille O'Neal calls them, were 3 for 20. 3 for 20.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 3 for 20. Yeah, that won't work against Golden State. Golden State doesn't, like even when they go through a point of not scoring, they score. So it's like, yeah, you got to put points up, and I don't see Miami being able to put points up unless Jimmy Butler was geared up to score 50 every night, man. He needed 40 something last night, and he was gassed. So I don't think he could, carry that team too much further.
It's it would have been the same at the end. Same exact thing, and it was like so. Now we get to see Steph go ahead put on the show. Clay is starting to come into his own again, knocking down shots. We usually see Game 6 Clay. Clay is extended it to Game 5. We don't know if what he's going to do, and if he's just going to come out and be a consistent threat as they look at his close. There's post KD in which they had. Basically, it's Showtime. It's going to probably be a good series. Hopefully, it makes it out to be a good series, or at least the games are good, even if it becomes a 5-1 or a 4-0 or 4-2. But Boston can also probably shock the world and be like, you know what, we did this. All the young talent that they have at this point. Horford has played in over 140 games in the playoffs and doesn't have a championship to his resume. It could be a situation where Horford now, finally get his championship. Tatum and Brown gets there. Smart gets there. He gets him one. Hey, stranger things have happened. Uh, so it remains to be seen. Of course, speaking of stranger things happening, hold up before I go there. Golden State. did they tank? I mean, no, but
they tanked. They tanked. Especially that one year when they got Wiseman, they tanked. They tanked that year. They ended up getting Wiseman in the draft that following year. Yeah, that following off season they tanked. I do agree with the tank. Like we say, Steve Kerr is great. I don't know if that was an intentional tank, but yeah, they couldn't win games. they couldn't win games.
Well, they was out Steph ain't without Clay. Because another fun fact or a stat that no one pays attention to, every year Clay has been there for 7 years, right? Or 8 years. So 8 years. 8 years. 6 of the 8 years in which he's played, they've gone to the finals. The only time in which they have not been in the finals is the 2 years in which Clay did not play due to his injury. So, I mean, I don't know. So it's like, so it could have been, like you said, Steph couldn't do it by himself. He didn't have anything, of course, like we said last year they were without Draymond the majority of the year. Of course, they was out without Clay for that year.
Who Harvard getting the ring? I like that.
we don't know, Steve. Like I said, I don't want to. Y'all just gotta realize, like I just sit up and watch them go walk back, so I don't want to sit up and completely throw them off. I gotta realize I have to find that sweet spot in which just to make sure that I don't do too much. And put stuff out the stratosphere, and then it comes back and they be like, and I watch Golden State get their 18th championship, and I sit up and gotta wait for us to sit up and tie it and try to win again. So it's easier if Golden State takes care of business and knocks it down. So I'm trying to make sure that I don't go too far left until I know that, the bag is secured, and then I can be like, okay. But until then, I'm not going to omit Boston. Although, like I said, I'm rocking with Golden State, but I will not omit Boston at this point. And hell, they got the first game and they playing at home.
I think that's the picture is tradition for Celtics. Can they live up to the tradition? That's a lot of pressure within itself to live up to all those legends, all those Hall of Famers that have come through there. And it's been the franchise's 22nd finals. 17-4 record in the finals. That's impressive as far as the team goes, but. As far as the franchise goes, man, but this is all about it's all about who you with, who you like. Some people are going to say that Boston's defense is going to trump because everybody always says defense wins championships, but Golden State has shown you that hey, if we can put the ball in the bucket more than you, then defense is irrelevant. So, and I think they have the I'm not going to just say experience is going to make all the difference, but I think Steve Kerr knows. I think Steve Kerr knows what it takes to win, and I think when it comes down to it, he'll make the better adjustments. Also, his team is better.
Mm-hmm.
You alluded to it. The depth is going to be another thing. The rotation of the Boston Celtics might have to be cut a little bit shorter. You might have to see more minutes from Tatum and Brown in certain situations in the game just to try to keep it close. You know.
And then when you look at it, also, man, like you don't know. Well, on the opposite side of the spectrum, at this point, you don't know who's galvanizing, who's motivating the Celtics at this point. Tatum probably got calls from Larry Bird, like you know, saying winning his award, and he probably got a call, like you know, it's probably all kind of stuff that's going on, in which people are really standing behind them in Beantown, and it was like, hey, you know, what I'm saying, let's go, let's get this. Then they get a chance, they host the game Thursday night in Boston. I'm very sure the atmosphere is going to be high energy. Uh, Golden State know what they're going into. It's nothing like going somewhere and playing the spoiler. I got a chance to be a part of that a couple of times, and being in a hostile environment that's not conducive to your to you, and to walk out of there with the dub, is they'll say is ultimate. You said Larry gonna have to
You
suit
have
up.
to do that. Yeah, he might have to.
Larry ain't gonna
You know,
suit up, man.
he
So
might have to.
back to go say I was getting ready to talk about Stranger Things happening, which isn't necessarily a strange thing, but of course, if you don't know, talking about it here. The Los Angeles Lakers have made their selection as Darvin Ham will be the head coach of the LA Lakers uh, for this upcoming season, as I believe they signed the 3-year contract with Darvin Ham. Of course, if no one knows Darvin Ham, he has been in the Lakers organization before, as he was a assistant coach during the Brown Mike Brown era. He has 2 rings in his own right. He won a ring with the Detroit Pistons in I think 2004, as well as he won a ring with the Milwaukee Bucks last year as a coach. Darvin Ham will become the 28th coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. And it's more interesting enough now is with Darvin Ham being hired, there is the diversity in the league is 50-50. Correction. The diversity in the league, whereas now we have 15 head coaches of African American descent. And if you look at the fact that, which puts it at a 50% ratio, and if you look at the fact that there's some that we have others minorities are head coaches in the NBA, that diversity goes up to where it's more than 50% are of a minority or of minorities are head coaches in the NBA. When you look at Spoelstra, and I'm very sure if I researched, there's a couple more. So now that's what we have it down the diversity. So I ask you one thing, a couple of things, Cornelius. What do you think about the hire with Darvin in LA in reference to any other coaches they could have got, Kenny Atkinson or others?
um, I think for LA is I think it's good. I think it's
Mhm.
a good chance for a rookie coach to show what he has, putting together a so-called dysfunctional squad. Lots of egos. But seeing what moves they make to me is what's going to determine what off-season moves they make is going to determine how well he'll do. A lot of people saying try to get rid of Westbrook, but I would like to see him come back, like just put a few other pieces around, get some younger guns, and then come back with pretty much that same squad, running back, see what they do. We know that, but we know that King James will have something to say about it at some point. But I think it's a good hire. I think Darvin Ham, when you got guys like Giannis endorsing him, saying that, hey, this guy is good as far as helping prep for games and stuff like that. Um, I think it'll be a good thing where you don't have somebody who already has a voice out there that might mess up this team. Clearly the Lakers are trying to get back the championship form, but who knows, man? I would say give Westbrook another shot.
And like Leo was just talking about the Lakers, yeah, true enough, it is like you said, he's a rookie head coach. He doesn't have any head coaching experience. He's been in on the sidelines. We shall see. He's been on the sidelines for I think 4 or 5 years, in 6 years I think, ultimately, and now he gets his opportunity again. And I'm saying Laker blood, as he said, he's been in the organization before. He was a part of Mike Brown's and Dan Tony's coaching staff. Um,
Hmm.
Good morning,
Good
Andy.
morning.
Good morning, Andy. How you doing? Uh, he was a part. He's been a part of their culture, the of Lakers before. Like I said, with D'Antoni and Mike Brown, of course, neither one of those years did we any of that time frame did we win a championship, but he has been around there. So I'm LeBron has already stated, saying he's looking for, saying he's up. He seems pretty motivate with Coach Ham coming in. So of course he seems like he's standing behind him. So, but you brought up a good point, Cornelius, in which you talk about and spoke about the situation where what are the Lakers going to do? What are they going to put around? And of course, I was as I was going through looking at some of the different multiple sites in which I look at in gaining information, a certain question came about because they said Rob Pelinka and Sean Marks, GMs for the Brooklyn Nets and Los Angeles Lakers, were having a discussion in which, of course, we know that Kyrie Irving is not going to get an extension with the Nets at this particular time. Um, and so a conversation came up, presumably, what someone was talking about. And let me know what you think about this. The conversation came to a particular trade. In this trade, the Lakers would get Harris, Irving, Harris and Irving, and in return, Boston, correction, Brooklyn would get Westbrook, um, THC, Tyler Horton. Well, basically that is it. They get Westbrook and Tyler Horton or Carmelo Anthony as well. So Carmelo, THT, and Westbrook to Brooklyn for Joe Harris and Kyrie Irving. But what would you think about that?
Um, man, uh, would Kyrie humble himself and go back and play with LeBron again? Would he admit that he was wrong? I thought that when they were in Cleveland together, they could have won a lot more. They could have won a lot more together than they could separate, especially Kyrie. But I don't see Westbrook playing. I don't see Westbrook and Durant on the same squad ever again. So I don't think that could be realistic because I think KD still has a say so in that. And you got to think KD did help pick the coach that they have, but I don't think Westbrook. I don't think Westbrook would want to go back to play with Durant, and I don't think Durant wants to play with Westbrook at all. So yeah, I think that would affect that. But if they were to make that trade, then the Lakers really have something to work with because Kyrie and LeBron won once before, man, and with AD on the squad, they could probably build a team that as LeBron gets older, the pressure will be off him a little bit, and LeBron could probably LeBron play another 3 years or so, man. They could probably win. I don't think they're three-peat, but they can at least win 2 out of 3, I think. But that's all about Kyrie humbling himself, though, man, and really wanting to go do it.
Mm, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Kyrie in the purple and gold. Uh, I mean, it probably wouldn't be bad. You know what I'm saying? Definitely Showtime. I could see him in the Showtime. But again, for me, it becomes who do we put around? Who do you put around him? Like you were saying, that's the portion of it. Like, and which was obviously the problem this year. Like, even though, like, yes, AD often was injured. LeBron was out longer than expected when it came to his injury. Of course, we know Father Time is undefeated, and now he's knocking on LeBron. He's tapping on LeBron's shoulder. Uh, so bringing Kyrie, yeah, it might help, but like, who do we found the gym in Monk, in my opinion. So yeah, we know we had a gym in Monk. I think Austin Reeves is going to be effective over time. But it's like, who else do we put around him? Like, like THT shouldn't have got that money. Caruso should have still been in LA. But they elected to choose Tyler Horton over Caruso. Um, so it's like basically it comes out, who do you put around? Uh, I hope there's not another situation where we bring in a whole bunch of veterans because we paying all this money for everybody else. Um, we still got Kendrick Nunn, who didn't get a chance to play much last year. Um, in the trade you just spoke about, we need shooters. So a Joe Harris situation may not be bad if we could get more shooters to put around them. Then we start to, saying, so we can, like you said, stretch the floor, open up lanes, and it's not just a situation to where uh, it's a lot. And
No.
now it's, saying Rob Pelinka has to do that, or I mean, I don't know if he heard the writing on the wall. With Jenny was like, it's on her to make it better. And now that's what she needs to do, make it better. So if it comes down to where Rob can't make it happen, we got time to replace Rob, bring someone else in.
Well, I want to say this. Years ago, a few years ago, or whatever. Well, when LeBron got there and they didn't make the playoffs that first year, I think they prematurely. I think what Magic left not long after that, trying to make that AD thing go through, and I think what Magic was trying to do was make that AD thing go through without giving up the young pieces, Ingram and Ball. I mean, where would the Lakers? Ask yourself this: where would the Lakers be right now, Trey, if they had kept those guys? Those young guys that are thriving in other areas. I think LeBron was too quick to pull the trigger on those guys, give up on those guys because they were young and they had one. They were fourth, and then he got hurt, and then they dropped all the way out of the playoffs. They didn't make the playoffs that year, but I think I think that's what happens when you let players make decisions instead. When you let a player come through and he's the GM and coach and all that stuff all in one. It kind of hurts your team long term because he's only thinking for himself, right? For how long he projects he's going to be able to play and sustain it, right? He's not looking for long term or longevity. And I think if hindsight, if they would have found a way to get AD and still keep those young guys, they would be better off right now instead of scrambling saying who you got and who's going to play here or there because Ingram is lights out for New Orleans right now, and
And when you
Ball.
look at it, it just, I think what we would have had is what we talked about in those other organizations. Like we would still be behind Boston probably for at this point in this juncture with the Forest championships. But I think we would be building on something just like we talk about these young teams and how they get, like you said, we would have had Lonzo Ball, would have had Ingram, would have had Russell still, D'Angelo Russell, maybe even maybe Julius Randle, or maybe not. I think he left. So it potentially you probably could have still had a couple of things to where we don't have to where if you interject a couple of veterans, it wouldn't have been that bad of a problem because you still had this young talent, uh, in which they mortgaged that youth and draft picks. Let's not omit the fact that we lost draft picks. They
Right.
mortgaged that to bring in AD. Ultimately, it did bring in a championship, but it look at what's going on with AD. Like we don't have anything. We were able to bring it back, run it back, of course, and it put it into the position to where now we again mortgage more future picks for the most part because you had to give up that to get Russell, as well as give up Kuzma, even though we should have gave him up a long time ago, probably. But they did. They tried to. He had upside. He was at the point he was had more upside because he was a 27 pick uh, and was doing damage like he was in was a middle tier or better lottery pick. So it's like okay, it was working, and it just didn't work out at the end of the day. Which saying you got to take a chance, and you get what you get. But now, but of course, in that same matter, you learn from what it is you did. So I'm hoping Rob has learned and sees and looks goes forth. and then back to what you were saying, ultimately, I would like to keep Westbrook for the most part, uh, to where maybe the handcuffs come off, or maybe they get together, they figure out that this is what's going to make it work for the best for us at this point.
But no, my problem is you got all those veterans, right? And we have said it on here before. We talked about it before, but really and truly, Trey, the biggest deal is those guys willing to sacrifice and play together. It's not just Russell Westbrook changing his game. It takes an effort for everybody to step back a little bit and say, man, this is what it's going to take to make this work. I don't think anybody, like especially on the defensive end, I don't think anybody wanted to try on the defensive end on that Lakers squad that we just saw. And it's only one ball out there, so you really got to get somebody that can spread the ball around other than LeBron. And you gotta AD gotta stay healthy. I think the biggest piece is AD being healthy. I think New Orleans saw that, and that's why they were willing to make the move, because he wasn't always healthy for them, and they were always wondering what if, sitting on the outside looking in, wondering what if. But it's funny for New Orleans because they're going through the same thing with Zion right now. They can't win for losing in that department, but I think AD. With his age and everything, man, if he could just figure out a way to sustain the season, come in with better conditioning or whatever it's going to take for him to be on the court, it'll make a huge difference for the Lakers.
Indeed, yes, indeed. So now saying that so other things happening basically over this weekend. As you know, we talk about the NBA, Military Basketball Association, plenty, and they had their conference championships this weekend as well, in which anything else, so there can only be one. And in these two conferences, there was only one that ended up being it. In the Eastern Conference, the the Fort Campbell Screaming Eagles, coached by Coach Parker, walked away with their Eastern Conference championship, ensuring a top seed in their for their finals, as well as the Luke Air Force Base. Um, Out of Arizona punched their ticket, and now they are the Western NBA champions as they also look to have a high seed in their championship for their go at the NBA finals. So of course that stage is set as they get ready. The top 16 teams or 10 teams, something 16, 10 teams goes to the finals. And so we'll be there in Denver as well, hopefully to go and do our thing there. Uh, Tomorrow, of course, we should have Commissioner Mike Myers II that should be on, as well as the winning coaches and Coach Paul Parker and Coach Paris Daniel to be on tomorrow to take us through the journey for this, and of course to let us know what's forthcoming, and so we can all know what to look at or how to catch it if y'all weren't able to catch it. So of course, shout out to those two installations as we continue to push the military athlete for the most part. Yes, they may defend nations and countries, but at the end of the day, service members are regular people, just like anyone else, and to tend to do regular things. So, of course, saying big ups to those installations, and we look forward to talking with them tomorrow. Um, but pushing in to that great. Oh, you know what? Before we go into the NFL, bruh, what did you think about Javante Davis and Romero over the weekend? Did you get a chance to catch it?
No, no. Um,
Man, I watched the fight, and for the most part, it was there was a lot of Javante Davis, of course, did retain his
right.
title, lightweight title, with a 6 round knockout of Romero. Yeah, like Leo
No.
said, night night. He did return his title, in which when you talk about punch drunk Cornelius, man,
Yeah.
he caught my man, and he walked into it for one. Like it was a couple of shots he walked into. Like Rolly just kept on, like he said. Of course, I figured punchline you gonna get on here. You think really? You think so? Punchline. So what we know and what we understand is that Davis did say Davis did say that he was going to kind of like fill him out, like, you know what I'm saying, and then he was going to unleash it. But when I was looking at it, I just seen in which, yeah, Rolly was getting tagged. Obviously, um, Tank was faster. He was faster. Of course, being a smaller person, he was even able to duck in and duck out fast enough. But a lot of stuff I seen Rolly walking into punches. Like he walked into some left hands, and he definitely walked into the sleeper at the end of it to where we almost fell out the ring.
Mhm.
He said he could have put him away early. I don't know, punchline. Maybe I got to go back and look. I just look at, well, maybe so, maybe so. But definitely, Rolly was unorthodox in a different way. The way he kept on, you know how when you go in the fight and you walk in there, but you like keep your body turned because you look like you shine away. That's his guard. Like that was his guard. I was like, how do you even get your body? Like he wasn't squaring up. It wasn't. He never had a position. Yeah, he never squared up. He just kept on. He kept on walking in like he was like I'm saying. So I'm like, how do you even? You can't even. But it's unorthodox, as they say, and that's what he was used to. That was the moniker on him. He's an unorthodox and an awkward fighter. But he didn't even. So everyone thinks he's filling them out. He could have put him away early. He shouldn't have been talking all the smack. So I didn't catch the interview. I think, but I heard about the interview. So he stated that he won 6 rounds and that he wants a rematch. Uh,
Now that I did see, clamoring for a rematch after you just got knocked out is not really.
that's not how
You
you
know
do
he wasn't thinking straight.
it.
You know. Yeah.
So now of course Javante Davis, as I think we talked about before, he was with Mayweather Promotions. He's leaving Mayweather Promotions, so now he's looking at going after big name fights. He wants mega fights. So of course he spoke to it last night. The Haney fight. Of course, additionally you got Shakur Stevenson is out there. Lomachenko is out there. So it's an opportunity for them. Garcia is out there, so he has the belt. So as opposed to sitting back and letting them come for him, he's going for them. So we maybe see some good things from Tank uh, in the coming year or so, 2 years to see where it's at. Lomo got disposed. Lomo lost one fight. Punchline. Come on, Andre. He lost one fight, and then he came back and handled who was it, Laura? Or who did he beat? He beat the brakes off somebody.
You know, like you don't like low form right now. I don't know. I think that anything to put boxing back where it was, I think when you got a champion, for me, it's when a champion is calling out. It's not when people calling out the champion because you're the champ. It's when the
Champ
champion is calling
is on
out
the
people
hunt.
saying,
Yeah.
"I want to fight these people." Bring it back to fighting top notch competition. You know, several fights in a row. That'll be good. You know, it'll be good for the sport to see the best face off against each other. Um, you know,
That's like
see those
Benavidez
real
doing
life.
the same thing. He calling out Canelo. He's calling out, like you said, when people are holding belts and instead of, like you say, instead of them sitting back like, nah, come here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Come on, boy. Like, it's like, as being a hunter. It ain't no fun when a rabbit got the gun.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so of course we look forward to that and hearing the next one. Of course, just like anything else, everyone's looking forward to hearing when the date is set for Spence versus Bud
Oh yeah.
at some point. As we all know, September 17th, Canelo will be fighting Triple G. No one really wants to see that, but almost footwork is elite like Tank this fight, but in a decision, Tank needs.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, so in case we got a chance to catch it, and he slept him. And like you said, I didn't catch it, but evidently from what CC and Leo saying, it was the post was bonkers. Um, in which, for one, I gave Romero the benefit of the doubt. I thought maybe he was a little still disoriented, and so they got him up out of there to go back to the locker room to like settle him. But when they's like he doesn't want to speak at this time and doesn't want, I was like, come on, bro, you can't run your mouth and then go high and be like, no, I'm not talking right now. And then of course I didn't hear the interview, but if from what y'all talking about, if that's how he came back, you might not have even said anything. You should have left it where it was and then kept it pushing and just like, no, I'm not talking. We understood, we seen what
Got
happened.
plus drunk.
So in any case, shout out to Tank Davis retaining, getting the dub. We look forward to seeing more of you later on. So going into the NFL, the NFL, the NFL, the NFL. Cleveland, Cleveland signed tight end David Ujoko to a 4-year, $56.7 million deal with $28 million guaranteed.
I need some of that guaranteed money, man. They going up guaranteed.
When not talking smack, you know what I'm saying? I don't get tight end money. Uh, so, but when did the tight end start to become valued in this sense, in a matter to where? So that's like seven. Well, technically, it's 7 million guaranteed a year when you look at it, but 56 million 4 years is
Yeah,
like
for a guy that's unproven too. You know.
Pharrell was just saying, he stays injured. He's been there. There was always a large hype on Njoku, and he never lived up to the billing. But now they pay him like he's been living up, or is this like an offering to where it's like, okay, we think we see something in you. It could be a situation where now they have a different quarterback in at the helm, in which they think that Njoku is going to probably be of an asset. We already know what they have in their running game. Uh, we understand what they have in one of their wide receivers in Amari Cooper. Maybe it does work in their favor. I don't know. Uh, sometime, boy.
Yeah, it is that it's the AFC North. That is a trend for them as far as the Lamar and Andrews thing going.
Mhm.
That's his like main target. But I look at it, the Gronkowskis and the Kelseys and stuff like that, man. They've changed the landscape of what you think of tight ends as far as not just blocking and possession receivers at times, but people that can actually catch and make a difference downfield. Back in the days, you saw that with like the Shannon Sharps, stuff like that, where you can actually stretch the field and be valuable in the receiving game, and also help out in the run game at times. But man, I'm not mad at anybody getting money, but I think this is indicative of what the Cleveland Browns organization is. I mean, they had a lot for years. They had a lot of early round draft picks that they weren't doing anything with. They weren't developing. Now they're trying to do it the other way, bringing a quarterback that's already developed that you don't have to waste. Whereas they still had work to do with Baker. Deshaun is already ahead of that curve. Man, all I see them trying to do is basically buy their way into maybe a playoff position. I don't see a Super Bowl coming out of it, but I think they're saying, hey, we're trying to change the landscape of what we've been. What we want to do is we want to be competitive. I think that's where they're going with this. Is we want to be competitive. Uh, when you start selling out that kind of money for unproven talent, though, it shows where you are in the front office still, in my opinion. You're still behind because, hey, you're making bad decision after bad decision. I'm not saying the Watson thing is going to be a bad decision in the long run, but I'm saying you didn't solve the thing with Baker. You still got that up for grabs, but you still trying to add pieces, man. It's like, hey, take care of one thing at a time. Like every other team, I think Belichick showed you how to do it. You can get picks later on in the draft. I mean, you can get outstanding players later on in the draft versus some of those top picks. Uh, but just paying a guy to be hurt, man, I don't see that helping your team at all.
Mm. And hopefully, maybe they figure it's a year where they get him healthy and he's able to stand the rigors of the season, the 17-game season. Uh, uh, and staying in that same vein with Cleveland, what is up? Like teams are willing to take Baker, but they're only willing to take him at a $5 to $6 million clip, which means that would leave Cleveland on the hook to pay 15 million of 13 million, $12 million. Cleveland, on the other hand, is willing to take up 19 or 9 million of that of what Baker is owed in order to get someone to take him. Uh, in these situations, Cornelius, do you think it's just teams be trying to take advantage of situations, especially when you know someone is trying to remove or get rid of a player? You're not willing to offer anything, or is it to speak to the value of the player at the end of the day? Like they don't value him that much to where they'll go ahead and pay 9 million for him as opposed to put him in the organization.
I think what teams are saying is this: I can get a backup for cheaper than that. I mean, I don't see him starting on any team, so I can get a backup for less money, and still have my locker room intact. I think Baker burned himself in this. His case is purely his own situation. He got in his own way. As far as never should have crossed Odell like that. One, two. Like I said, it's the Browns organization on top of it. Can't just blame Baker, but they've been known to make bad decisions. I mean, you picked him first overall, and now a short while later, you saying you made a mistake, and and other teams are saying we're not going to bail you out for your mistake. You got you got to live with that, So pay up or you keep,
And then, like you said, this is a good point from Anthony. Like in what you said, they're like, who's paying 19 million for a backup?
Right.
And but even in this case, it's not even the 19 million. They're trying to sit up and just make it 9 million, like at this point, or 9.5 million. Saying for a backup, in which key backups have been. You think at one point, uh, what's his name in New Orleans was paid 9 million to be a backup, in which, but he's presumably a weapon, playing commercials. So it remains to be seen.
But I think the difference in the two is that they were using I know they were using the other quarterback more
Taysom
down
Hill, Taysom
Hill. They used him quite a bit out there. Within the scheme of their offense and stuff like that. So I think they overpaid him as well. If you were going to keep Jameis Winston, or if you were looking to get somebody else even in there, I think they overpaid him. But we'll see long term where that puts Taysom Hill. But I think it's two different levels right there. Like I said, I think Baker made his own bed mostly, and Cleveland know that they made a mistake and they trying to correct it. But nobody's going to pay that much for a backup, man. Like you don't even have a choice. You're a backup.
It's. I think at the end of the day, like we said, of course, as we know, supposedly some of the top tier talent that's out there, or who are up for potentially be picked up, in Jimmy and Baker. At some point, one of them, if not both of them, ends up somewhere. It's just a matter of when and where. And of course, when you start looking at it, if someone's quarterback, like we start seeing, you still mandatories are coming up. So once mandatories start coming up and people start hitting each other and we start to get into it, we'll see someone's going to need a quarterback and someone's going to take a flyer on somebody. It's just a matter of who gets suspended for 6 games. You start with. They're trying to have him out before then.
I'm going to go on record and say this. I'm one of those that's going to say that I don't think Baker Mayfield is ever going to play again for Cleveland. As far as on the field, on the sidelines, standing there, yeah, maybe, but I don't think he's going. I think they already going towards Jacoby Brissett, which
makes sense. I think
I don't think Baker is ever going to touch the field for them again. Because this is their way. Like I said, this is their way of saying we should have kept Odell. We should have tried to make things work in house. This is a lot of things that they're saying that they're admitting right now. We probably shouldn't have picked him first overall in a draft. He should have made. So Cleveland trying to clean up some stuff to make their team better. I don't blame them for that. But you know, Baker, man, I don't see him playing in Cleveland again.
So yeah, I with the whole Jacoby Brissett, it makes sense. Like if you bring in Baker because Baker has proven himself to be a starter in this league for the most part. But it makes sense. Like if you bring Jacoby Brissett in, why would you want to take Baker and use him in that set? Because now you take it away. Jacoby Brissett is we're trying to get rid of Baker, so Jacoby is the backup, and we don't want. Yes, Baker may be a better backup in this sense, but we're trying to move on from him, and we would need to see what we have in Jacoby because if Deshaun goes down or if he's out for a little bit, we need to be able to be confident in our backup. So it makes sense, of course, to get Baker on. So yes, true enough. Unless Jacoby goes down or something like that, and Baker's still in that system, I agree with you, Cornelius. I don't see him playing again in the or putting donning another orange helmet on the field of
No,
play in meaningful games at this point.
no.
I just see he's going to continue on. So I wonder who's going to take him. I think he's going to be going at some point. It's just a matter of when is he going to be gone. Additionally, of course, I don't get it, bruh. No, I'm not going to even go there first. Yeah, let's go there first. Deontay Johnson, wide receiver standout for Pittsburgh Pittsburgh Steelers, has decided to sit out in efforts to get another deal. Here we go again. Here we go again. I don't get it, Cornelius. Is this the culture? Is this the way in which you're going? In which we now, because I feel like I've outpaid the contract in which I signed on to play, now I can come back and be like, nah, I don't want to play until y'all pay me more money. Pay
Hey,
me what I'm worth.
it's working for a lot of people. That seems to be a strategy these days. All the way around, the athletes are saying, "Hey, you know what? No, I'll sit out. I'll do this." I think it hurts. I think it hurts a little bit. In some instances, it hurts you. In some instances, it helps you. Right? Like it helped. You know, the threats. Just think about it. The threats of walking away from Green Bay helped Aaron Rodgers out considerably. Right? When they realized that Jordan Love wasn't the guy. So you know what I'm saying. So it could work for people, but I think when you play with teams like Pittsburgh and New England and stuff, man, where they not notoriously known for paying you a bunch of money to be there, I think you cross the wrong teams when you do that. You saw what they did. They didn't put up
Le'Veon
with,
Bell.
you saw what they did to Le'Veon Bell. They didn't put up with no matter how good he was. They didn't put up with Antonio Brown's stuff. I think you just picked the wrong team to do that with when you do that with that Steelers organization because they've been a solid organization and a winning organization, by the way. No losing records in a long time. You know, hasn't always shown as far as Super Bowls and stuff or playoffs, but no losing records for a long time under Tomlin's
10
tenure.
years.
So yeah, trying to get money that way in Pittsburgh that's not a smart move. I don't care who your agent is or whatever, because they've been proven not to pay
It's just starting to become too much.
you.
It's that's man. I guess it's maybe because, like I said, I'm not saying that no one should get their money. I'm just saying you should earn it. So is he saying that he's earned this money? Like, just wait. Like, you have another year. You still under your rookie contract. You're expected to outpay your contract. Like, that's why it's tiered like that. If you had got drafted in the first round, then your money would be different. I mean, if you had got drafted early in the first round, your money would be different. It's tiered for that. So you know what I'm saying? So yes, when you outpay your contract, that's good because that's foresight. Okay, we got something here, so you should get paid the next time around. But to sit up and come on and be like, I'm trying to get paid now, is that stuff in which I'll be like, see, like y'all out of pocket with that.
Well, it's like I think it's the culture nowadays, the sports culture, where like I said, it works for one person over here, and then it works for another one, and then so everybody wants to try to do the same thing, especially if you feel like you're valuable. But my question is, how does a receiver think he's going to get paid when Pittsburgh? Who's going to be their quarterback? Like, I mean, they got bigger, they got bigger fish to fry right now within that organization, figuring out how they're going to move on from Ben Roethlisberger. Who coming in after Big Ben? Is Trubisky going to be that guy? And so is this young man saying that, hey, no matter who the quarterback is, I'm going to shine? I mean, is that the message? Or I've shined enough? I don't think you've shined enough. Isn't Smith Schuster they're projected number one anyway? Like,
Nah, Smith Schuster is in Kansas City now.
oh, he
They're
left. That's right. That's
yeah.
right. He's gone.
Deontay Johnson is their number one. He's there. He's that dude there with him and Claypool and
That's what I'm thinking of. Claypool.
Yeah.
I think Claypool. I think Claypool is better than that guy, to be honest. Right now, where they are in their careers. So that clamoring for contracts and stuff, man, it's just a part of the game now. People got to get used to it. Us older people, we got to get used to the young world feeling a little bit entitled here, man. We don't have to work as hard as you did before, pops. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have brands, we have all this other stuff, pulling for us. So yeah, we don't have to work our tails off, so to speak, improve ourselves as much. Just give it to me right now.
That's a good point. That's definitely a good point in what you say. So, like you just said, you said something that's key. That kind of like segue into what the next topic, which I want to speak about. When you said no matter who the agent is, of course, as you know, another trend sweeping the nation is people with money, especially in the sports world, starting uh, sports agencies, taking control of their own careers. As we know, Naomi Osaka started her own sports agency, in which at some point, Kyrie Irving came speaking about, hey, uh, how can I get on? I don't know if he was serious, but it remains to be seen. But additionally, with a little more emphasis, uh, Kanye West and Antonio Brown have started their own sports agency, Donda Sports, in which they got one of their best first clients. That client being Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald has signed on to be a client with Donda Sports, in which he stated that he sees more of an opportunity for him to do something beyond football, as well as his wife to get in the fray to be able to do some things of what she's been thinking on. So no judgment, of course, but CC, let me know what you think of an organization started by Kanye West and Antonio Brown.
I don't. I
Are
don't
you
really see.
are you signing?
Um, yeah, like for Aaron Donald, yeah, it's a good move, and
You think so?
I say it from this point of view. Who
Okay.
knows more about marketing and branding than Kanye? Who knows? I mean, for a long time now, for about 5 or so years, people have been saying he crazy and out of his mind, but the brush still selling, the brush still moving. Shoes and clothes and stuff moving, things like that, man. All the things that he's tapped into. Um, I can't see Aaron Donald repping Yeezys or anything, but I can see that his brand really blowing bigger, right? Like, I mean, for real, like I can see that move just because of who Kanye is, and I don't think it's all about just Kanye himself or Antonio Brown themselves. I think about it's the collective of the people that they bring with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm all for the athletes. Who knows better about the game than the athletes as far as the contracts and things like that? We tend to think, we always sit back and we say, oh, we need this and that, and all that stuff, and they convince you that you need somebody negotiating for you but who looks out for other people more than an artist or an athlete who's been through it? You know what I'm saying? Who's been on the poor end of negotiating? you know, uh, Kanye comes from the world where artists get messed over all the time. They get screwed over all the time. So those insights, AB, what he just been through, shows you a lot, and still was able to make a coin. Even though everybody was saying you were pretty much done. So I look at it like a win. It's a win for guys like Aaron Donald, but I think you have to have a name. Now, if you're a no-name person, you might err on the side of caution if you're trying to build a name. But if you already have a name, I think it's a good move.
I think that's where I go opposite side of the spectrum with you on that one, man. I just don't. I see everyone's like, saying, of course, Yee puts a respect on his name, a guy, saying pastor, but man, I just see like I'm a big purveyor on, of course, who you were doesn't mean that's who you're going to be. But again, sometimes the things in which you do, it gives me pause. Like, yes, the key point you said, Kanye has been able, he's like a phoenix. He has been able to rise from the ashes plenty of times. He has set up and made a name for himself, regardless of what has happened and what he has done and what he has been. Of course, we know he suffers from mental illnesses and stuff like that. If y'all checked out his documentary on Netflix, you can kind of like see and you get an understanding, a peek under the hood, and you see those things. But it's like, and not saying that a person that suffers from mental health issues and has has certain elements in that way can't be productive in the business. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm just looking at it for me and my brand and my business is I don't know if I would want to engage in that way, especially when like I can understand one of the two, but both of them, not both, but both of them, like, bruh, like, if you know what I'm saying, when you look at it, like, okay, you have, like you just said, you have Kanye in the fact of how he markets and what he does. Him and his team are very good at what they did. Like Kanye marketed himself. If y'all see, Kanye did it all himself. He took his money, he did everything. So definitely a person that's saying I'm a marketer myself. So it's like when they look at it, it's like okay, I can understand like Kanye what he does. You're saying got that, but let's just say for the instance, for the sake of the conversation, AB is your negotiator. Like, what has AB negotiated for himself over the last couple of years? The only, in my opinion, what has allowed AB to still be relevant in the NFL for that time frame was the fact of what he had done as a player. But you know, saying so everyone wanted that part. It was his game spoke for him, but it became a point to where his game could no longer speak louder or be louder than him as an individual and his antics, and it was no longer. And the only thing that he had as a grace was the simple fact of even in that they was willing to take a chance in Tampa Bay on him and they brought him in because it was his. They still felt like his game was louder than him as an individual, and that ended up being a damning situation. Presumably, I mean, I guess it kind of like died down, but I'm very sure it's going to rear his head again. So when he simply say about that is like I'm not saying I don't think I'm sure that they're not going to be the people that's going forth. I'm very sure AB isn't getting himself a isn't being certified as a sports agent or anything like that. But and they're going to have other people that they're bringing in to work that portion of it. But it's just a little, in my opinion, it would be a little volatile. And I don't know if saying if different things. Some volatility is needed in some instances because saying you need to be able to know that you got people that can shake the room. But I don't know if that's what I would want. And like I said, you bring up a good point. Additionally, when you talk about Aaron Donald and him and his, he already has a brand. He's already a polarizing figure already when it comes to the sport of football and what he wants to play. But he said, I want to do other things and be more than football. And I'm not sure if that's gonna how that's gonna come out when we start looking at him opposite of that. So
uh, last thing I like to say about all that, because I'm looking at some of the comments as far as things. Yeah, and you were mentioning what has AB done. I just want to comment on that. Hey,
mhm.
he negotiated. He negotiated his way into Tom Brady's house, man. I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you had the GOAT endorsing you, bro. So that's a big negotiation right there. So I think he does have some pull, and I think he is a lot. I think he is a lot smarter and a lot more clever and a lot more interesting than we even thought. Even so, it'll be for me. It'll be a wait and see type thing. How long that lasts? Because we have just to wrap this up, we have seen on the other notes it works out for people. Jay-Z had that sports agency for a while that put Robinson Cano in baseball, got him a big contract, got quite a few people big contracts. Master P did it back in the days for a little while. Putting players in. I think what it boils down to is nowadays people just want to be around people sometimes that they can connect with, that they understand. I don't want to just lean on the culture per se, but I think Aaron Donald has more in common with those two than anybody else that he could possibly pick.
hmm I can rock with you on that, and like I said, it's like, and again, don't want this has nothing to do with saying other stuff. Is just what we've seen of them before, and for me, I would be take a little hard look and be like, and who else is out there? What else can I do? But of course, obviously, there's giving us opportunity. I'm very sure he's talking. It's more of an opportunity between them, as they said. He said for him and his wife to get some things done and accomplished. So of course, if you look at someone that's putting everybody on, you want to take the opportunity if they're being real and contrite with you. So I don't knock it. I just think from me, if it was me, I don't know, I would think about it, really take a hard, comprehensive look at it. So that goes to your question, Anthony Price. That's probably why he hasn't signed yet, because now he has representation, and they're probably going to go forth and look and see what they can do.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I know y'all talked about this over on last week, but Lamar has came and he's countered and he spoke his piece on why is his name in everyone's mouth about him missing OTAs. Of course, he simply came on and was like, "It's voluntary," and so the only and then to get went as far as to say the only reason it's an issue and you're talking about it is because it's Lamar.
You
So
think that's it? I think so.
so you agree with it?
I agree with that somewhat, but I also know that the contract thing is out there. I think that's the biggest reason why people are talking about it. Like, is that going to him being one of those guys that's always shown up since he's been in the league to the voluntary to voluntary workouts, and now he's not showing up to the voluntary training. I mean, what do you think about that? Like, what are people supposed to think? This is you are participating in sports. Everybody's watching you. You have fans that want to weigh in, and it just comes down to everybody sees that know you have offers on the table, but you haven't accepted. You turned down the offer. So does that mean that you're going to hold out? I think the Baltimore fans really want to know: are you going to hold out? Or are you going to show up? I said he'll be there for the mandatory workouts and things like that for
Yeah,
training
he
camp.
got a choice. That's he started getting in his pocket at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he'll be. So I don't think he should worry about it. But I do think that's just it's the culture right now, man. It's the sports culture that athletes are not just taking flack. They speaking, they talking back. They're not just taking all of the talk, man. They talking back now, saying, "Hey, keep my name out your mouth" and all that stuff. Saying, "Hey, why are you talking about me?" Hey, it wouldn't be a big deal if it was, it wouldn't be a big deal if it was somebody else and all that stuff. But that's the usual stuff that you expect when a person, when you catch a person like, hey, you normally do this and now you're not doing it, instead of just giving you a definitive answer. I don't have any other answer for you than to say, hey, leave me alone right now, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's basically what he said. Like you're saying, leave me alone. Like if you're saying when I get there, it's not it's voluntary. Like I ain't got to be there. Like you're saying, I can volunteer to be there. Just hold your horses. Like that old saying, it's not a problem until it's a problem. It's not a problem yet.
Right.
When we're weak into mandatories and I'm not there, then y'all can sit up and start speculate. But until then, just hold up a second. So going back a little bit, right, Cornelius. Um, as we talk about teams, stuff like that, building organizations, building unit squads that could be helpful. So what I have here is a little list that was compiled of the free agents. If you was to put the free agents that are still available on the team, what it would look like. So I won't go over a couple in which offensively and defensively, of course. And just like to know your take on that. Of course, free agent quarterback Cam Newton. Um, and these are the starters. Running back Devontae Freeman.
Mhm.
Wide receivers Will Fuller the third or the fourth. Odell Beckham Jr. and Emmanuel Sanders. Tight end Rob Gronkowski. Staying in the skill positions. Defensive tackle Akeem Hicks and Larry Angojobi. Defensive ends: Jason Pierre-Paul and Carlos Dunlap. Linebackers: Anthony Barr, KJ Wright, and Dante Hightower. Cornerbacks: Fabian Monroe, uh, Jack Rabbit Jenkins, Chris Harris Jr., and safeties: Jarquiski Tart and Landon Collins. If those individuals were a team in themselves, do you think they would be able to compete?
No,
No. Ooh,
no.
not at all.
Uh, I'm gonna say Cam's done. Um,
That's where we
I'm just
start.
gonna put that
Let's
out
start
there.
at the let's start at the quarterback. You're like,
Yeah, yeah. Cam may be a formidable backup now at this stage of his career, but he's pretty much done carrying a team. There's no knock against Cam. It's just that he did it for so long in Carolina, and they couldn't win the big one. I think he reached his peak already. I think once you reach a certain point, it's only either you keep it steady or it's a decline. And right now he's on that side where it's definitely a decline. Um, I blame one himself for that, but I also look at the way the Patriots used him. It's hard to recover from that. As far as they were going to run him in the ground, they never planned on letting him be a passing quarterback. They proved that they were going to run him in the ground, and I think that's what's happened to Cam is that he's been running the ground, man. And now it plays on him psychologically that this late in the career, everybody's saying that, hey, he didn't develop this much as a passer when he was an MVP of the league. I think all that stuff catches up with you. I'll start there. And then Freeman, that's another one. I don't even know. He's been playing so long, man. Can he still hit the hole? Can he even get through the hole? With the speed of defenses, man. So I just look at those two. You would have to have more. I don't think competitive, if we're saying competing against the Jets and the Jacksonville Jaguars, yeah, but as far as being competitive, no. No,
and,
no.
and I get it. It's one of those things where there's a small amount of players that are still out there, which you can be like, okay, yeah, they're going, and that's exactly what you're looking at in this group. A small amount. Of course, we think in certain aspects, there's going to be a situation where I could almost assure that everyone is waiting for a recovery for Odell Beckham, and then to start calling him in once his recovery to see how well he is, which is unfortunate for him, but he'll get his day. I think again, it's
Oh yeah.
just a matter of time.
Out of
Um,
all those that you named, I think Odell will be on the team. I think like he'll be on the team. The Rams reportedly still wanted him for a while, right? Then they still want him. Then McVay say he still wanted him there. So I think if he doesn't pick him up, I guarantee you, I bet you Tampa Bay will pick him up. They'll give him a shot.
oh yeah,
Because Brady's famous for going after the vets that have played and that somewhat understand him. So I think any team would take OBJ on that list. Anthony Barr, I live up in Minnesota, so so I've seen him play real good, but I don't know what he still has on it, man. If he's still he's sitting there for a reason right now, you know.
and ultimately, what it comes down to, as well as I was about to say, as long as OBJ doesn't end up in New Orleans, I'm fine. Like, let's stop.
Hey, that might be a stop. Hey, home, sweet home, right? Wouldn't that be like going home for him?
Yeah.
Hey, it's just something about sometimes when the player goes home, when the right player goes home, things happen.
Nah, we don't want that. We don't want that. Can you imagine him, Thomas, and Landry?
Oh, that would be
And Olave, like that's and then they like we know stay away
yeah.
from home.
Hey, Kamara, oh man, out of that backfield, yeah, that would be horrible. That would
Yeah,
be
so
horrible for leagues to have to try to match up with it,
yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, what I'm saying it's
And with someone like Jameis Winston, who's not afraid to take chances, who's
to
not
put the
afraid to
ball.
take chances.
See, look at that. Look, you see how I do. See, they getting just like y'all Cowboys fan. Look at it.
Look at you. Then you gonna have to throw the Cowboys in there.
That because that's what that's just like who that like it's that's what happens. Like you say something about it, then here come who that is.
But Leslie, that's what I just said. OBJ to the Bucks, man. Don't be surprised if that happens. Don't be surprised.
So, kind of segue in which 30 TDs. You can say that, but you can't forget 30 INTs as well. 30 for 30. Nothing happened. Basically, he's just uh nothing happened. Anthony just basically Lamar is just stated that he it's not mandatory yet. When it's mandatory, then we'll look and see. Um, so top three teams, Cornelius, if you can, top three teams that did not make the playoffs last year that are going to make the playoffs this year. Who do you think that is?
Top three that
Yes,
didn't make the playoffs that
last
are
year.
going to make the playoffs.
Yes.
I would say the Denver Broncos. I think they'll be at the top of that list because of the move with Russell Wilson. How good can he make that team? I think he's going to at least make them a playoff team. I do agree that the Saints. I think the Saints have they showed that they can hang with the Bucks. Who was one of the better teams last year. They showed that they can hang. They got a good defense. That defense comes back and wreck shot like they had been. You look at the Saints and outside chance. I want to say I would go with the Indianapolis Colts.
Mm.
They were just a Carson Wentz mistake or two away from being in the hunt last year. So I think with Matt Ryan, I think they'll get it done. Backup Nick Foles. If Nick Foles has to come in and take over, I think they'll still be good, especially with that running game and that defense. I would say the Ravens, but here's the thing with the Ravens: there's going to be a lot of competition in that AFC North. There's no promises, and it depends on if Jackson is healed all the way. I know they've been a force before, but how well is he going to play coming off that injury?
So so kudos to all the ones in which y'all said. I definitely agree with. I hate the fact to be saying this. The Saints. It's just that thing. You know what I'm saying? So yes, the Saints, of course, I can get down with. Uh, Indianapolis, long shot on the back end, but I think it's one team in which everyone is missing. I hear the Broncos. Okay, I got it. The Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are going to be, but I think the one that's missing, and that honestly might be actually better than even the Saints pick, is the Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers. I think that.
This is why. I'm gonna tell you why I won't take the Chargers, Trey.
Okay, I'm listening.
I won't take the Chargers because of the coaching, man. They should have been in the playoffs. That guy just makes poor decisions, and until he cleans up his decision making, I'm not taking. I don't care how good Herbert is. The coach blows some games for you. As long as you have that happening, I don't see them doing. I don't see them being a threat. That's why I picked the Broncos.
I think now what it happened, because yes, their coach did, like they got rid of Lynn. Lynn is now in San Francisco. They brought in, I forgot their current coach's name, but then he did make some bad decisions. Are we going to say that are we going to say that him going for the gusto and gambling in that game against the Raiders, in which they could have got in? Are we going to say that he botched that? That was his fault?
No, but it was a couple of other games
prior to that.
It was a couple of other games prior to that gave them a better chance, and they wouldn't have been in that situation at all had they capitalized on it. But he just made me, man. Sometimes it's wise just to punt the ball. Like, there you go with your punter right there. That's a plug for your punter thing. Sometimes it's good to punt the ball instead of going for it. Like, you're on your own side of the field and you're going for it on 4th and 5. I don't understand your thinking. What do you hope to accomplish? So it's just stuff like that that bugs me about they coaching, man. It's coaching.
I think it simulates to the same thing in which Jimmy took the 3. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like you apply pressure, and then if it goes your way, then you know what I'm saying, kudos. But of course, when it doesn't go your way, the only thing that you can see is like, yeah, that was a bad decision. and it was saying he's done it plenty of times, and I think it was a gamble, but he tried to apply the best pressure as he could, and it didn't end up working out for him. But of course, now he has a hellacious defense on paper.
Mhm.
I don't think they added anything really except to help their offense, except for they brung back their core in Eckler, Allen, and Williams. Uh,
Good receivers.
yeah, he got good because Williams is a 50-50 ball. He's a 75-25 ball when it's up in the air on that sideline. So they have a consistency, but I just don't think they brought back anything else that can help them. They definitely concentrated on defense, in which they have a Bosa, Mac.
Yeah.
They got problems on defense. So I mean, it remains to be seen, of course. But yeah, that would be mine. Is the Saints? You know what? It's Saints in San Francisco. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to do any talking yet. I'm not going to do any talking yet. I still got to make sure that we good at quarterback. So I won't do any talking yet. But I just saying Saints in San Francisco. I do. It is in my
I
head.
want to say, I want to respond to Leslie right there. No, they
Let's go.
didn't make the playoffs. Lamar Jackson got hurt. Their season went down the drain. Remember, it was the Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers representing out of that division.
So yeah, so it remains to be seen. So I'm not gonna do any talking, Leo, and all the Saints fans, in which I know that are out there that are listening and probably saying who that and dancing around second line and all in their living rooms and stuff like that. I'm not gonna speak too much on it right now. But of course, I will leave it at that. Saints in San Francisco. Saints in San Francisco. Uh, Another thing in which I have. So I have a question. We're going to basically go with this one, as we always have done. Cut to. I got 5 receivers for you, CC. 5 receivers. And I think this is going to be a hard one. 5 receivers. I need you to cut to, so that way you can have three wide receiver set. 5 receivers that you have that you got to release 2 from your team to create your 53-man roster. 5 receivers. Terrell Owens, Larry Fitzgerald, Calvin Megatron Johnson, Randy Moss, and Jerry the Goat Rice.
You got to
Cut
cut
two.
2 of those.
Cut two, CC. Let's go.
Well, right off the rip, I'm cutting. I'm cutting To. Uh,
What?
this is why I'm cutting.
No, the
This is why I'm
third
cutting To.
best.
This is why I'm cutting To. Though his
Okay.
numbers are spectacular and though he's good, uh, he doesn't. He didn't know how to win, and not being able to win frustrated him to ruin locker rooms. I'm also the reason why I keep Fitzgerald is because, man, longevity is a thing. Like one of those Jerry Rice guys, man. Durability. Larry Fitzgerald was for the most part durable in his career. To had some injuries. And the other person that I would cut for, I mean, it's a hard choice, but man, I'm cutting Moss. Yeah, I'm cutting
Whoa!
Moss. And this
You're
is why I'm
cutting
cutting
number
Moss.
2 and 3 in NFL history.
This is why I'm cutting Moss, man. Great player. I liked Randy Moss when he was playing, but I couldn't live with some of the productivity on the field, man. He didn't go all out all the time. Imagine if Randy Moss went all out all the time. We probably wouldn't even just be talking Jerry Rice at the top by himself. You would be talking Randy Moss, but he took plays off, man, and he admitted that he took plays off. I mean, you know, but what he did was still good enough to get him into the Hall of Fame. So let that sink in. You know what I'm saying? I think Calvin Johnson left the game. Like he said, he didn't want to injure himself anymore or playing for nothing in Detroit. His loyalty to Detroit. But I got to take Megatron. Who wouldn't take Megatron? He was like, to me, Moss, a better version of Moss.
Ooh. So, without doubt, we keeping Jerry. That Jerry isn't going anywhere.
Right.
But like you just said, the other 4 have a different aspect. Uh, to the game. So of course, like you said, I see Leslie say he's cutting Moss and To.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I don't know about cutting. Like we're talking about number 2 and number 3, but I guess when you look at the culture from a culture standpoint, or you know, what I'm saying from your for your locker room, maybe you don't want a To or or a Randy. Like you know, what I'm saying we can forget Randy had a whole kidnapping case. But you know what I'm saying? But and then he did take plays off, but in his later years in which he start playing, he was a problem and he showed it. In which, of course, like you said, got him into the record books. In which we look at To and Randy Moss are basically sit second behind Jerry Rice, who we all considered the GOAT of wide receivers. Um, Calvin Johnson just got in last year. Randy Moss and To are in. The only one out of them 5 is not in currently, and that's probably just because he's waiting. Is Larry Fitzgerald, but for the most part, Larry Fitzgerald was seen as the wide receiver that did everything correctly, that did it all right, in which, in essence, is a shadow of Jerry. So I would keep. I'm going inverse, of course. So I would keep Larry, which means it only leaves one spot to be kept, which eliminates the other 2 automatically. And if you've been listening and looking at the show, y'all know I've always sip and wondered how did Calvin get into the Hall of Fame
Mm.
first ballot. First
Mm.
ballot. He deserved Hall of Fame, but first ballot.
Mm.
Um, in which is presumably, as I thought that it was a situation in which we're looking at the fact of how players, how Stafford was his quarterback the whole time, and how we don't hear Stafford being seen as a first Hall of Fame ballot candidate, even with his Super Bowl win. Uh, but yet Calvin Johnson is in the Hall of Fame. So I think, in that being said, Calvin would definitely be one of my cuts.
Mm. Okay.
In which now that leaves To or Randy, in which both were 49ers at some point in their career. Um,
Hmm.
and I think I would go with the latter in Randy Moss. So that means To and Calvin would be my cuts, and I will rock with
Mm.
Jerry, Randy, and Larry.
Mm.
But in
Okay.
case it's hard, that is basically definitely a hard situation but all of them bring something. Well, at least the other 3 bring something different.
Mm.
I mean, we got whole. We don't say you just got Megatron. You got Moss. Like,
But you only say that because Megatron is shied away from the light. I think like I said, I think Megatron was Randy and some more. I see personally how he got in first
mm-hmm,
ballot because he did have like the best wide receiver season, right? As far as in terms of numbers, right?
mm-hmm.
Uh, Not only that, the best wide receiver game ever, right? Which happened against my Cowboys. Did he put up over 300 and something yards in one game, man? I mean, ridiculous numbers, you know.
Where do you see a one trick pony in Moss, um, Anthony?
only, only the deep route. I agree with that. Only the deep route.
Come on, we're not gonna act like that was his superpower. We're not gonna act like that he wouldn't take a ball across the middle and turn it up the field and go the distance.
When he would run the route across the middle, he would like a lot of times stop short and then go back the other way. Like Randy Moss, I mean, for real. Like, like highlight of his career was definitely for me, it was New England. They
Mm-hmm,
set a record that year.
mm-hmm.
But it was mostly because Brady wasn't afraid to go deep then, throw it downfield, and that was Randy Moss. Nothing wrong with it. Hey, your game is to go deep, man. Nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah, when you look at a wide receiver in height taking the top off the defense, and going to get it. Like that's like true enough. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he was a one trick. No, he was not a one trick pony. But that was just
Pretty
that
much,
was
bro.
just that was just his superpower, and that's what he did. No different from Cheetah getting routes across the middle and turning it up and going. That's his superpower. He used what was his strength. And so, you know what I'm saying? That so that's what I look at. That was his strength. And you know what I'm saying T.O. I think T.O. same thing, but it's just Cornelius says, T.O. was too he didn't he couldn't lose. He didn't know how to lose. Which caused, you know what I'm saying, problems and then the controversies and the propaganda, like that's my quarterback and all that type of stuff. Like we know you ain't right, Romo, for real. Stop playing.
Right. You know,
Yes, that's why but I kept Larry.
Larry did a lot. Yeah.
Larry's going to be. He played one team, and
But
there.
I also want to say that if you say it's you got mossed, but it's all about jumping over people. And my question is, Randy, how high did you really have to jump? You was 6'4". The guy guarding you was 5'9". I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, the guy guarding you is 5'9". A lot of cornerbacks are not that tall, so I don't, so all that you got moss stuff. I mean, it's cool for the highlights, but really, truly, but really, I mean, Megatron, you was like 6'6". I mean, I'm just saying, like, cornerbacks will tell you it's a lot harder for them guarding those guys than you think with the height, with the height disparities and stuff like that. So
True that. I definitely. I can't wait to get Bishop on tomorrow and maybe ask him the same question and hear his answer. Of course. But of course, saying as we come to close to the end for today's show, as I said, please sure to tune in with us tomorrow. As any other time, like we said here, Monday through Friday, 09 to 1100 or 9 o'clock to 11 a.m. We look forward to having the representatives from the MBA, that's the Military Basketball Association, as they talk to us and tell us about their trips over the Memorial Day weekend to Vegas as well as Phoenix City. And we get to talk to them about the championships and what we have when you're looking at the going all handling it all out the conferences into the NBA finals, where you see one, if not anyone, from all over. As of course, there is a certain brotherhood amongst it, as these are players who have played against or with each other all for many years, and we get to talk to them about that and what that looks like tomorrow. Of course, more probably a little intricacy in the reference to Golden State, anything else that comes out in or around the sports era. Cornelius, what we got to look forward to tomorrow for the Sim Show?
tomorrow on the Sim Show, of course, the people's coach. I'll be encouraging people to keep their heads up through these tough times and seek knowledge on the mental health awareness and stuff in the wake of these recent shootings. I speak about all three of the recent shootings, not just the Uvalde thing, but also the Buffalo supermarket. And a breakdown of what happened in Southern California. As far as some of the Asian people being attacked and things like that. So basically, it's a breakdown of the hatred and the mental problems of this country right now. Things that seem to be showing their faces more and more. So check me out, the People's Coach at the Sim Show that stimulates your mind. Tuesdays, 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
So, of course, like you said, be sure to check that out. Like I said, we'll be right here, ready to go and talk about all those things in sports, as we always do. So, at this point, we bid y'all farewell. Make sure y'all enjoy y'all weekend, the rest of y'all weekend, extended weekend for those who have an extended weekend. And look forward to seeing y'all back to work, but rocking with us in the morning. So, at this point, high speeds. I thank y'all for showing up the formation this morning. At this time, attention, fall out. Look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow.
Thank
Peace.
you. Oh, yeah.